Hello and welcome to Solent Sports News, and I'm joined today by Matt Le Tissier. So yeah, first of all, Matt, bit out there, I guess, but I was going to ask you about hooliganism and how big of a problem it was in your playing days in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, well, I certainly saw a change from the early part of my career to the back part of my career. There was in the mid 80s, definitely saw a lot of stuff. We had teams like Millwall come down to the Dell, caused quite a lot of damage in the city. And it's pretty scary. I was a 17-year-old kid at the time, seeing it for the first time. So yeah, that was pretty horrific. I was on the end of a lot of abuse during football matches and all that kind of stuff. But that was kind of water off a duck's back. But I saw as my career went on, the hooliganism thing kind of died down. I think it would be very difficult to eradicate it completely, but it certainly had a big decrease as my career went on, and by the time I retired in the early 2000s, the incidents were pretty isolated.
And how would you compare it to today? I mean, has it decreased?
Again, I think it got down to quite a low level by the time I'd retired, and I think it's still at a fairly low level. You'll get little incidents here and there, but we haven't seen kind of the mass incidents that we used to get in the late 80s and certainly through the 70s as well. So I think fortunately it's not as big a problem as it used to be.
And at your time in Southampton, have you and your team, your teammates experienced any kind of abuse or any significant instances?
I don't really remember any real instances of abuse. Only kind of verbal abuse from the stands during football matches. I mean, that's pretty standard for the course, really. I don't recall ever feeling threatened as a Southampton player, although there was one incident where I did feel pretty scared as an England player, because I played against the Republic of Ireland in 1995 when the game had to be abandoned after 27 minutes because of crowd trouble. And that was the only time really in my career where I felt like I felt scared. We had to get taken off the pitch. There was seats being ripped up in the stands, and this was all going on in the stand where it was above us. We were in the change rooms underneath. And so, yeah, it was that was probably about the most scared I was at a football match.
And were you genuinely worried, as in, like, you thought, this could end up quite poorly?
Yeah.
This isn't like something that's, Southampton.
Yeah, I mean, this was certainly at a level where I felt like, geez, if they really go for it, are we safe in the change room? How long are we going to have to stay in here, locked in, before we can get on our coach and get out of here? So yeah, that was the most worried I was.
And how can a problem like that be dealt with, in your opinion?
Well, I guess the police have got better in dealing with that kind of stuff, in terms of being better prepared for those kind of incidents. I think stadiums now spend a lot more time on probably looking at the ways that the fans get into the ground and making sure that the two sets of fans don't collide in some way. We've had instances with Southampton, Portsmouth, where the fans have literally been bussed in on one particular route and then bussed out, and that route is policed. And so I think they've learnt perhaps from the mistakes of the past, and they seem to deal with it a bit better now.
And again, going on to a slightly different topic, I guess, with football, from the highest level that you've played at down to grassroots, can a football club, everyone's local club, can that sort of, in the wider scale, can that tackle what's a huge problem right now in the UK in knife crime, in terms of providing an alternative route for a lot of young children? Yeah,
I think there's a lot of clubs that do a lot of good work in the community, with the charity arm of the football club. So they do get out and go and meet the vulnerable people in the community, and do some good work in engaging them and trying to put them on a good path in life, as opposed to them being able to get in with the wrong kind of people and go down the wrong path in life. So yeah, the football clubs, I think, have got a big role to play, and I think a lot of them do play a good role.
And for young people's mental health as well, well-being.
Yeah.
how important is for a lot of people football in their lives, not just supporting but playing for a local team.
I mean, I don't think it's just football. I think sport as a whole can be a massive help to kids with their mental health. You know, not just team sports, but you know, individual sports as well, where they can set challenges, they can be part of a team, and have that support group around you. So I think sport is massive when it comes to helping youngsters with their mental health.
And sorry for all the dark questions, sort of moving on to your fabulous career now. What was that feeling like when you but when you played against Norwich, making your Southampton debut?
Yeah, I mean, I did come on. I was a sub in that game.
Oh, right.
So that was my first game. My full debut was a few days later against Spurs. Yeah, I don't remember too much about the Norwich game. So I mean, obviously I know it happened. It's a long time ago now, and obviously I wasn't involved in a goal or anything like that, which kind of really sticks in your memory. So that was kind of a vague memory. The Spurs game a few days later is much more vivid. You know, I started the game. It was at home, and I have much more solid memories of that game and things that happened in that game. So that was pretty special. I had loads of my family up in the stand watching me, which was, you know, pretty cool.
And I don't need to waste your time going over your career and your stats. You know, some of the boys have already mentioned how incredible of a career you've had. But I was going to ask you what your proudest moment was.
Blimey. Proudest moment. I think, given as a kid, I had two ambitions in life. One was to be a professional footballer and the other one was to play for England. So I guess the first time I played at Wembley, I came on as a sub at Wembley for my England debut. I mean, that was just everything that I'd ever dreamed of as a kid. And again, you know, mum and dad were up in the stand, you know, making them proud was something that, you know, filled me with a lot of joy and still does.
Yeah, I guess nothing compares to that. And I guess just to sort of, bit of like a trivia thing. What throughout your career, who would you say, you know, your best teammate you've ever played with, and toughest player to ever play against?
I think the best teammate is an interesting one. There were a few players who I really enjoyed playing alongside. There was a guy called Ronnie Eklund in the mid-90s who was only there for, you know, a season. But I really enjoyed playing alongside him. Rodney Wallace was another one who was a fantastic footballer. You had people like Jimmy Case, and I would put in that bracket Marion Pahars late on in my career. So there was quite a few players that I really enjoyed playing alongside. If I had to pick one, I'd probably say Ronnie Eklund.
And, you know, throughout your Premier League career, you know, domestic competitions as well, which player did you just, if there was one player you just dreaded coming up against, who did you just not want to play?
I think early on in my career, the answer would have been Stuart Pearce. I was a right winger early on, and, you know, coming up against tough left backs, Stuart was, you know, one of the toughest one of them. And then when I kind of moved inside a bit more centrally, I didn't really enjoy playing against Martin Keown at Arsenal. He was nicknamed the Rash for a reason. It was just all over you the whole game, and so yeah, I didn't enjoy playing against Martin.
And finally, what would you say with punditry and, you know, TV work you've done over the years? Is it enjoyable in terms of, does it keep you in contact with the sport you've always loved, or is it different? Is it not the same?
I mean, it's very different. But it was incredibly enjoyable. I loved my time on the Soccer Saturday. I just had the best fun on a Saturday afternoon, sat there talking football with my mates, and it didn't really get any better than that, to be honest. If I couldn't play it, then it was a lovely way to stay involved in the game in a way that I could do it in a light-hearted manner as well. It was perfect. Next
best thing, I guess. Yeah, that's all my questions. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Matt.
Pleasure, mate.
Thank you. Cheers.
No problem.